Here.
Julie Boyd, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Chad Russell, Fire Chief.
Matt Kane, Director of Finance.
JT Klaus, City Attorney.
Dana Ingstrom, City Clerk.
Les Mangus, Director of Community Development.
Jolene Graham, Assistant City Administrator.
Jennifer McCausland, City Administrator.
All right, this time, Randy, section with Epic Church is going to lead us in invocation.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your goodness and grace that we can turn to you anytime, anywhere, and you hear us. And we pray for this meeting, that you would grant a spirit of camaraderie and goodwill, that you would bless each discussion, that you'd grant wisdom and guidance in those discussions, and especially to those who have to make decisions. We also pray that you'd be with our firefighters and police and emergency personnel and so many others who serve the community out in the community, that you keep them safe and give them wisdom and guidance as they answer the calls and minister to people in their own way. We thank you, Father. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Man, if you would, join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. At this time, I open up the floor for a public forum. If you'd like to address the council, feel free to do so. Keep it at 3 minutes. Nobody? Take your time.
George Theo Harris, 519 Woodstone Place. I put on the paper that you guys used to have my birth date up there, 1957. You took it down. Are you going to put it back up there? But anyhow, so I went and talked the other day with the people that are going to be having the drug and alcohol rehab place. It's probably not the right name for it, and I talked with them for probably an hour and a half or so. Their noses did not grow at all. Did not grow at all. So I'm pretty sure they were telling me straight up the truth. So I appreciated that. We live around 3 football fields from where they are, from their door coming out with 3 football fields. So 900 feet, 300 yards. And if you go out to the street and down around, it's 3 football fields and a little bit. So my wife was adamantly opposed to the idea because I'm from Wichita and she kind of likes it out here because there's nice out here compared to what I got going on there. But I will say that we were there. We went and looked it all over, and quite honestly, they have to be somewhere, because if you just Google how many people in Andover have potentially have an alcohol or drug diagnosed or undiagnosed problem, it's around 20%. So with that being said, just look around you. Do 20% is 1 in 5. You can pretty much just go 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, but maybe not in this room. Maybe they're all somewhere else. But they need to be somewhere. The people have to be somewhere. So where? It's already established, and I think they've got a good plan. So we can all be against it. My wife was, but now she's warming to it because they need to be somewhere, because it is on the rise, alcohol and drug. And if people want help, they're looking to help them. So that's all I have to say about that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Steve Church, 738 Westchester Place. I'd like to thank all the mums and dads that are here tonight, looking out for their kids, and also to all the mums. They put these signs together. There's a few mums at the back who prepared this in their own time. I'm going to say the same thing that I did when I addressed the planning committee last Tuesday. I took a tour of the facility Jason hosted. It is a pristine facility. It's very, very nicely done. In fact, I felt like wanting to stay there myself. It's beautiful. I'm also Vice President of the Board of Directors for the Union Rescue Mission in North Wichita. And so there are a lot of similarities with the things that Jason is going to be doing at that facility to what we do for the homeless. We're providing a way for them to transform, get back into society and live normal everyday lives like we do. They come into us addicted. The drugs, the medication they have to be held in a way that meets Kansas statutes. Both facilities do exactly the same, so I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned a little bit about the security. It didn't seem to match the level of security what we have at the mission. We talked a little bit about that, entry doors, break-ins, etc. It's not up to the same level of security that we have. Even though the medication and the drugs are going to be held securely, we know from the mission it becomes a magnet. We have a homeless little community tent city. It's in a creek bed, a little bit to the north of the mission. We've had attempted break-ins there. They're coming in looking for drugs. It is a magnet. They don't understand that the drugs, medications are securely locked away and they can't get at them. It will become a magnet. That's just a fact of every type of facility for this. So those are my reservations about the center in its location. Thank you.
My name is Pastor Ben Griffiths. I am the recovery pastor at Hope Community Church here in Andover. I live at 2407 North Silverdale Street in Cornerstone. I'm also a city chaplain, volunteer my time to support our officers, our firefighters, our EMS in our city. I've learned a lot over the couple weeks. I do not live back door to this facility, but I also think that there might not be a lot that can change other than the perspective that we have to love others and to care for the people who are in need. I was sitting with a man in tears who is an alcoholic, didn't know what to do. This was about 4 days ago, and trying to present him with options because he wanted help. I'm still new to this as a recovery pastor, but there are not a lot of options. And when we did call some options, they were full. I do understand there are safety concerns. There are definitely things to be aware of and problems that will come with it. But I think as a city, our responsibility, one of the greatest things that we can do is come alongside those who need help and to support them. And whatever the results are, I encourage you to ask yourself that question. How do you do that? What is your role in that? Because if you come against this care center and make things more challenging, they're going to have a harder time doing their job to keep the people safe that you're trying to keep safe. We as a church, Hope Community Church, are going to do our best to come alongside, to partner in whatever way we can to support this recovery center. We have AA meetings, recovery meetings, Sexaholic Anonymous meetings. We have family of addict meetings. And so if you need help, feel free to call Hope Community Church if you need some support in any of those areas. But you will understand it affects a lot of people in Andover as well. We lost a student a couple years ago to an overdose of drugs in our community. And so it really does affect us. But I also understand the hurt and the fear that comes with it. And so ask yourself, what do we do from here? After this happens, how do you support our officers? How do you support our EMS? How do you support our fire? How do you support this recovery treatment center to make it a safer place? It's my encouragement for us all. And I'm going to ask myself the same question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kelly Oxner. My address is 502 East Crescent Lakes Drive, Andover. And first of all, I want to say I'm 100% for a recovery program. I just feel that the location probably could not be in a worse place. And my reasons for saying that is we have all the schools across the street. We have 3 clinics nearly within a stone's throw, and we have Walgreens down the street. All of that makes us very problematic. I know from raising 2 children in the Andover Public Schools, one at Sunflower, and both went to the high school there in middle school, that you see kids every day, my kids included, walking to and from the schools. They go down to Dairy Queen, they go down to McDonald's. This is something that my kids enjoyed and they should enjoy, and it's kind of their first taste of independence. If we have people coming and going, and from my understanding is that there is no promises that the door is going to be secured and locked. I would say my girls would have been extremely impressionable and gullible as to what can go on. We know these people are desperate. I have heard, I don't know if this is true, it could include sex offenders. I think you can understand why I feel strongly opposed to this location. It's a very difficult issue. I can appreciate that. However, we have many precious lives here to consider. And for that reason, I'm opposed to this location. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sir, we heard you the other night, so we understand where you're at. We're not going to relitigate all this through, well, it's been through here. We sat for hours to listen to you all the other night. We understand your concerns. We listened to planning and zoning. I listened to the whole thing. So unless you have new information, all right, but we're not going to listen to everybody say the same thing over and over and over
I understand.
again.
I do. Mayor Price, members of the council, Ben Elliott, 609 Havenwood Court. Let's cut to the chase. 30 years in Andover. My back fence is 200 feet from 224 East Central. I've stood here twice. I will be brief because tonight isn't about how I feel. It's about what's in your record and what isn't. This is a quasi-judicial decision, not a vote on whether recovery matters. It does, and I've never argued it otherwise. It's a narrower question and a harder one. Has the applicant proven its case or only asserted it? Under Kansas law, the burden is theirs, not the neighbors, not your staff's, theirs. And measured against that burden, this record has a hole in it. They've told you similar facilities don't hurt property values, the communities come around, the patients are supervised. Those are statements. Not one is backed by study tied to this operator, this market, this parcel. Your own staff report says the property value claims on both sides were unsourced. A recommendation is not evidence and assurance is not proof. Look at what was never placed in your record. No traffic study, nothing on shift changes, deliveries, admissions, discharges, or ambulance runs. No operational study, no admission criteria, no staffing ratios, no discharge protocol, no public safety analysis, no call data from comparable facilities, no elopement history. On the golden factors you're bound to weigh, the analysis that should have come from the applicant was instead pulled together from your commissioner's own questions. That's not the applicant meeting its burden. That's the record straining to carry them. And here's what makes the gap matter. A special use permit runs with the land, not the operator. And every assurance you've heard came in a letter to our HOA and in testimony from the podium. None of it is enforceable, none of it binding on whoever owns this building in 10 or 15 years. The promises don't survive a sale. Conditions in a permit do. So I ask two things. Hold the applicant to its burden. Require the evidence the law requires before you approve, not after. And whatever you decide, make lawfully detailed findings. Explain factor by factor how the evidence in this record supports it. Because a decision unsupported by substantial, competent evidence is vulnerable on review. And this record is being watched carefully. You sent this back once. You knew something was unfinished. Nothing since has filled it. I'm not asking you to decide that that treatment doesn't matter. I'm asking you to decide this the way the law demands on the evidence or the lack of it. Thank you.
All right. At this time, I'm going to close the public forum and we're going to get back to the city's business. Acceptance of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. Consent agenda 7172.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.2 as presented.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. 8-1, final PUD Jaguar Estate Edition, and Julie is going to talk to us about this.
Yeah, Mayor and Council. Those of you who were around in 2024 may recall the Jaguar Estates Edition. Their preliminary PUD was approved a couple of years ago and effectuated the MXR multiple family mixed residential district zoning on this parcel at the corner of Archer and Concord Road. That's about 700 feet from the Heritage Development, 322 South Archer Drive. The property owner intends to transform this from its current status as a vacant lot of grass into a duplex development, which would have 14 duplexes, a total of 28 dwelling units surrounding a central parking area. There would be a reserve in the southeast corner of the property that you can see there, which is set aside for drainage and landscaping as required. Water and sewer to the subject property are already in place and are expected to be sufficient for those 28 dwelling units that I mentioned. Of course, internal improvements will be made onto the parcel so that it can reach all of those individual buildings. A portion of Concord Road to the north and McCandless Drive to the east will be required to be paved for access to this parcel. Like I said, Planning Commission conditionally approved this final plat all the way back in 2024 after that preliminary went through. That was in October of 2024. The applicant delayed their final approval until this time, but everything has been sorted out and they're ready to proceed. And we do have an applicant here to answer any additional questions.
Council, you have any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to accept the dedications of land for public purposes in the Jaguar Estates Edition final planned unit development.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, real quick,
Yes, sir.
is this typical for a planned unit development to have this substantial of a delay between, and this could be for staff or mayor in your experience, that we wait a couple of years between? I'm seeing
Yes,
nods.
this is very normal.
Anyone else? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. Jaguar A2 is Jaguar Estates Edition Petition Developers Agreement Resolution of Advisability. And Kevin is going to speak to us on this matter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item 8.2, following the acceptance of the plat, is for petitions, a developer's agreement, and a resolution of advisability for the Jaguar Estates Edition. The applicant has submitted petitions and letters of credit for sanitary sewer, water, drainage, and paving improvements. Per city policy, 100% of the cost of sanitary water and drainage will be paid for by the benefit district. Per the same city policy, the paving project on Archer and Concord will be split 50-50 between the benefit district and city at large. That is a program that's eligible for any unimproved street in Andover. A few weeks ago, we heard from residents very near this area. This is also the same procedure from Lakeview Heights a few years ago, where the city participates in a portion of paved improvements for unimproved roads. So this project would include that 50-50 split just for the paving. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Kevin, is there a road there now?
Correct. They're gravel roads. Archer to the south, basically the southwest corner of this property, was improved as a part of the heritage development. So this will continue on that curb and gutter street to the north on Archer. And then Concord is also a gravel street, and that will be an asphalt mat road with ditches and culverts on the side.
So this is not something one would say they're just putting in a street to help with the funding. These are streets that we've already had in the queue, or not the queue, but we already own the road. Now we're just going to be approving it, right?
Correct.
Improving it.
Correct. Yeah, these would be considered a required infrastructure improvement associated with the plat.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the construction of certain internal improvements related to Jaguar Estates Edition.
I actually have more questions.
Go ahead.
That's three. Mr. Mayor, Kevin, I've taken a look at the map here. There are a couple residences that are close by. As you know, it's one thing that I'm always going to harp on. I'm going to ask you face to face here. Drainage. Are you confident? I mean, specifically, you confident as a city's engineer that the drainage from the proposed property that's to go in there will not drastically affect the residents there? Specifically, it looks like on this map I'm looking at is to the south and the one resident to the east.
That's correct. That's something we look at through the plat process. This originally came up through Planning Commission a few years ago, but during that process, they submit a drainage plan. There were comments. There's back and forth on that. We do look at how that's being conveyed today versus how it's going to be conveyed out of a pond. Outfall here, we look at pre-developed runoff and post-developed runoff. The site cannot exceed those runoff rates, so they have to go back to as it was if it was grass with the amount of storage they provide, and that was all provided by the applicant and their engineer and reviewed during the platting process.
I appreciate your diligence on that.
And that's what Reserve A is like a dry detention pond, right?
That's correct.
Can I get a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I believe we read 8.3's motion and not 8.2's.
Pardon me?
I think Mr. Henry read 8.3's motion and not 8.2's. I heard internal improvements related to Jaguar.
You're right. I did read 8.3. I apologize.
No worries. I'm not trying to call you.
I'll
out.
rescind that motion and move to accept the petitions for sanitary sewer, water distribution system, drainage and paving improvements, approve the developer's agreement, and adopt a resolution of advisability related to the Jaguar Estates Edition.
That I will second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. 8.3 Jaguar Estate Edition Work Ordinance. And Kevin again will talk to us about this.
Following the acceptance of the petitions and the resolution of advisability, the next item is a work ordinance that authorizes the construction of the improvements that are listed in the petitions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the construction of certain internal improvements related to the Jaguar Estates Edition.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. 8.4 Jaguar Estates Edition Engineering Agreement. And again, Kevin will talk to us about the
So this item is for the consultant services agreement with Garver, who is also the platting engineer. You see their name on the title block there on the plat. It is common practice for the city to hire the platting engineer to do the design for the infrastructure improvements. They also provide construction inspection, staking, materials testing. So they are a partner with the city kind of from this point until it's built and they start building homes on it. We do have a representative from Garver here with any questions.
no one?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And Kevin, this isn't the first project Garver's done in town, correct?
That's correct. Actually, the Southern Hills development that's under construction right now was one of Garver's So that they are one of the consultants that we work with often.
Thanks, Kevin. Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the agreement with Garver LLC, Wichita, Kansas for engineering, design, and construction phase services for the public improvements related to Jaguar Estate Edition in the not to exceed amount of $196,120.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. All right. Case number Z-SU 26-0002. This is an application requesting to allow for an intermediate care facility in the MRX multiple family mixed residential use district on a property generally located at 224 East Central Avenue, Andover, Kansas. Before we proceed with the hearing, I will ask council if any of them intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they have a conflict of interest.
No.
I will now ask council if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communication prior to this agenda item which they would like to share.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I received a hand-delivered letter from Mr. Gallagher in June, and then I have received multiple emails for and against the center.
I too have received multiple emails from the citizens, both for and against. I have not seen the letter that Mr. Gallagher sent out for obvious reasons. So yes. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I also received the letter from Mr. Gallagher as well as many, many emails and notes about this recovery center, both for and against. I must note for the record, the majority were against.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have two received emails, no letters from me. I guess I wasn't that special. And they're all on record from Dana. And if I didn't see it from Dana, I sent it to Dana. Sorry, city clerk.
And Mr. Mayor, I have created a letter that was submitted to the public in order to get public response in reference to this issue. I have received numerous emails for both for and against this issue, including 2 emails from you.
Anyone else?
And Mayor, I have received the emails that have been noted that our city clerk has also received.
All right. Has the city clerk received any protest petition on the case?
Yes, sir. A protest petition signed by A protest petition signed by 8 residential property owners was received in the city clerk's office on July 24th, 2026. Per the city attorney, the petition was not legally sufficient.
I now ask city council members if they have all received copies of the approved and draft minutes for the planning commission notice hearing on June 16th, the council meeting on July 14th, and the planning commission on July 21st, which summarizes the hearing on the case.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I now call on the city zoning administrator to provide us with a report on this case.
Mayor and council, as you're all very familiar at this point, we have an application for a special use to allow for an intermediate care facility at 224 East Central. I'm not going to rehash everything that's happened up to this point, but I will let you know that I have personally visited the site to investigate their landscaping and their site plan, and it was deemed to be in compliance both with the zoning regulations and with the approved site plan that's been in place for many years now. I will add that at our Planning Commission meeting last week, the Planning Commission adopted the revised findings of fact that you all will see in your packet and voted by majority to recommend that you all approve the special use with no conditions.
Any question, council?
Mr. Mayor, Julie, I was not present for either of the hearings. I was out of country. But on 7/14, roughly 9:39 in the evening, Councilmember Berry had asked in his motion for report on 6 specific topics from the zoning committee. I made note of those 6 topics and wanted to find out if during that meeting, those 6 topics were addressed, because I tried to follow along and I think some of those things got dropped off as people were talking over one another or cutting each other off.
The motion that was returned to the Planning Commission asked for reconsideration on items 10, 11, 12, and 14, which were the ones that were revised and expanded that you can see in your packet there. And that's what the Planning Commission primarily discussed and then based their recommendation on when they returned the matter to you.
Okay. For council then, is that when he asked for the specific reports upon those 6 points, is that something we're not responsible for or not necessary to do upon his request?
I'm not sure I understand. The motion is a legal obligation to consider. It was to consider factors 10, 11, 12, and 14. And I think the Planning Commission did that, in fact, read them in detail into the record. If there were 6 other questions that I am missing, which is possible, you could either ask those questions now or he could ask those questions. Staff would try to respond to them, I believe. But the motion did not include, to my knowledge, 6 separate questions.
I'm going to encourage staff to look at 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 50 seconds into that recording. I will encourage everybody to take a look at that, where he specifically states in his motion that he was asking them to look at those and comma, not period, specifically had 6 different points that he wanted addressed in that. And as such, I reviewed that. Not being here, I am coming into this wounded and trying to put myself into the position, and those 6 points were not addressed. Or to my knowledge, were not specifically put out, which he verbally stated in his motion. It was not just, I would like them to look over these points. And regardless on this issue or any other issue, if on council we are asked or asking, because everybody had asked about circumstances and conditions and everything else as well, but he had specifically made that at point. If we're going to ask for a committee to look at something, we would expect them to address those issues for us. That way it doesn't keep going back and forth like this.
I think though, what JT is saying is if you have 6 questions, let's go ahead and ask those 6 questions or 6 issues to see if they're addressed. I do not recall Tim making a motion. I remember the same numbers that are in here that everyone, 10, 11, 12, and 14, I believe. So ask your 6 questions to Julie and let's see if staff can, I guess, answer them.
The question is, how many times has planning and zoning approved this site?
It does not matter, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, I didn't ask you no questions.
You just literally asked.
I asked Julie the question. How many times has this passed through planning and zoning? And please don't interrupt me. I don't interrupt you.
If you count the approval back in 2024, then 4 times. They've recommended approval.
And how many times has this governing body passed this planning and zoning through this case?
How many times have they accepted that recommendation? Once.
Once. And it's worth noting, well, we'll let it go for now. Any other questions for Julie?
Do you want to ask the questions?
It was meant for the zoning board to ask in order to get the correct information before their decision. That is why he had those questions. That's why they are there, part of the record.
All right. Are there any questions to the applicant from the council or city staff? Could you
Mr.
come
Mayor,
to-
I have questions.
Yes, all right. You interrupted me again, that's twice, all right? Let me talk. Sir, could you come to the podium, please? So, so one of the things that they're concerned about is the fencing in back. Can you handle that? It's an 8-foot fence in back.
We're happy to build whatever sort of fence
All right.
will satisfy.
Security. Are the people going to be able to go to McDonald's and have a hamburger?
No, sir.
Are they going to be able to go walking around the streets by themselves?
No, sir.
What's going to keep that from happening?
Whenever folks go outside, they are escorted by our staff. We have cameras throughout our facilities, so we know where our folks are at all times. We have recovery support advocates who do regular rounds and checks to know where people are. We have doors that are alarmed. We have controlled access. Those all serve to mitigate people leaving and wandering. I think it's important to note too, if I may, that the people we're serving are people who are there voluntarily. And I'd shared during the Planning Commission, for those of you who saw that, how much people are investing in order for the opportunity to be there. People who make that kind of investment and meet the demographic that we're serving, which is the demographic of our esteemed crowd here and the council and all of us who are here, they aren't going to wander into a neighborhood. They're not going to break into someone's garage and swim in their pool.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, sir. First off, to both yourself, Mr. Leach, and all the parties with your center, I would like to apologize for how things come across. There are a ton of questions that I have in reference to this. And I know that there's a passionate thing for the whole community. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I think there are two things that came about that started this off on the wrong foot. Unfortunately, the temporary zoning had expired. Then with the media publicity and everything else that you guys were opening, and some people automatically assumed that you were already operating, they felt slighted. And that is a mistake. Everybody has accepted that, I hope, and have moved on because you have not opened up business yet. Additionally, our own city policies may have led to some of the anger from the community, not to mention my own actions being taken as having a bias or prejudice. As such, though, one of the concerns was, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Mayor brought this up as well, the barrier screening was talked about during the zoning committee. Mr. Leach had stated that he was happy to meet with the affected neighbors and would be willing to build a sufficient barrier to be a good neighbor. I'm asking you here officially on record if that is what you would intend to do. And if so, I would really appreciate it if you would, not just with that, but talk with the neighborhood about, just ask or listen to them about their overall concerns, one-on-one even. Obviously it's a passionate thing, regardless of how this goes, somebody's not going to be happy. It's always going to be that way. But if you would be able to address that, that I'm going to call the screening / barrier, as Mr. Leach had stated, that would be greatly appreciated. I know that he had said that it could be put into conditions in the zoning, and for whatever reason was not. And that was my biggest concern to start off with, because that seems something fairly reasonable for making happy neighbors.
We will commit to building whatever sort of fence is reasonable. I mean,
Right, and that's what I'm just talking about reason. I'm not expecting, and I hope the residents here, if everything goes through and you guys all sit down, I don't want anybody to be, suggesting there needs to be a, great wall built, 10 feet tall or anything. It does need to be reasonable. And I think the fact that those residences sit lower, they're concerned about people being able to get out of their cars and just see into their backyards and their windows and so forth. And, but again, something that's respectable, that represents your business as well as the neighborhood behind it would be great.
Absolutely.
And I believe we have an ordinance on how high you can go, and I believe it's 8 foot. Is that correct? No, we're not having no.
I believe it's 6 foot based on what was said in the planning
Okay,
committee, but
there you go.
we're happy to build a 6 foot fence.
So I've drove back there many a times because that's what I do. And they got 6 foot fence back there. Unfortunately, the way it sets compared to the parking lot, it's probably about 4.5 foot. But if you do a 6-inch foot and only 3 houses back up to the facility itself. So, and I notice you have the smoking area and stuff on the west side. Is that where people will be staying, or will they be able to mill around back there? Or what's your stance on that?
So yes, that's where people will be staying. No, people won't be able to mill around back there.
Is the smoking area enclosed or like fenced in or anything like that? Or I'm just curious.
It's under a canopy.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Excuse me.
I have a question.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Jody.
I know that this has been stated before because I believe I might have been one of the ones that asked it, but if you could please clarify, it I know has been brought up a couple more times since the last council meeting, but there is a background check, an extensive background check that you go through. And if I'm understanding correctly, there's nothing that is court mandated or nothing violent offenders or anyone that has felonies, they will not be here, correct?
So let me answer that in sections. So yes, we will be screening for any individuals who are on our offender registry. So if anyone's on an offender registry, sexual offender registry, violent offender registry, or drug offender registry, they will not be permitted. Yes, we go through, all of our patients go through a screening process that assesses any behavioral concerns, any criminal concerns, any mental health concerns, any medical concerns that may interfere with their ability to participate in treatment at our facility. No one will be mandated to attend treatment at our facility. Now, as to whether or not there will be people who have been convicted of felonies there, no, we will not automatically screen someone out because they have a felony. Now, we would evaluate what that felony is and base our admissions decisions on the nature of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In regards to family coming and visiting or someone that may carry stuff in their pockets, how do you handle that?
So first, before people come to visit, the patients submit to their primary therapist who they would like to have come visit them while they're there. They process through that, discussing who's going to be someone who is going to be a supportive and healthy person for them to come visit and who won't be. And so, that's kind of the first screening process. When people come to visit the facility, the visitations will be indoors and they'll be supervised by staff the entire time.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. The governing body has been provided with the approved and draft minutes for the Planning Commission notice hearing on June 16th, 2026, the council meeting on July 14th, and the Planning Commission meeting on July 21st, 2026. The videos of those meetings have been made available, and I've watched all of them, having had numerous public hearings. There will be no public comments taken at this time. The following options are available to the city council regarding this case.
Mayor, if I may, before you continue.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to put in the record that I have received 60 written communications that have been distributed to the governing body and made available to the public in the packet tonight. I received one after the posting of the agenda this afternoon, and they've been provided to you at the bench and will be included in the packet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
Have you not invited a myriad of people to come tour your facility?
We've had, first we had our open house before we learned that the
Right.
special use permit had expired. Then we've had 3 separate public events where we've invited the public to come tour the facility and visit with us. We want to continue that and continue that dialogue. If things go in our favor tonight, then we would be very receptive to doing that again tomorrow. Per Councilman Gallagher's suggestion that we visit neighbors. That's been our hope and our goal all along, is to be a good neighbor, to be a good part of the community, and to be in dialogue with folks.
Thank you. Again, the following options are available to the council regarding this case. Adopt the findings of facts and recommendations of the planning zoning by 4-vote majority. And I'm going to emphasize that. Adopt the finding and facts and recommendations of the planning commission. Revise or amend the finding of the fact or add conditions to recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission by a 4-vote majority, or override the recommendation of Planning Commission by a 4-vote majority. Assuming the council has received all the information they need on this case, you have received an outline of the choices provided under the state statutes for council action KSA 12-757C. Council, how do you wish to act?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I want the city to know, citizens, constituents, that after last time making the motion and falling flat, I did do some reflection on the videos, Jason's concerns, citizens' concerns, watched the planning and zoning. Is Doug here tonight? No.
Doug wasn't able to make it.
So, and saw that. So with that said, I move to override and add conditions. Sorry, I've never done this before, so I'm going to do it, and JT can tell me if I'm out of line. I've got 6 conditions here that I'd like to read. I think the most pertinent public concerns covered below, while making sure nothing violates the Fair Housing Act, ADA, equal protection, and due process concerns. I have proposed these conditions, which have related with the finding of fact addressed below as well. Number 1, the special use shall be limited to a residential inpatient intermediate care facility, outpatient treatment services, walk-in services, day treatment services, medication dispensing services for non-residents, and similar ambulatory activities and services are prohibited. The finding number 11, this directly addresses the public comment regarding traffic, visitor activity, non-resident patient activity, and neighboring impacts. Finding number 12, this more closely aligns with the medical campus and institutional uses contemplated within the city center place type. Number 2, the facility shall operate solely as a volunteer residential intermediate care facility, consistent with the representations made during the public hearing process. Finding number 10, the Planning Commission and Council record repeatedly relied upon testimony that the facility is voluntary. Finding number 11, supports the conclusion that the operational impacts will be less intensive than correctional or custodial settings. Condition number 3, the facility shall not exceed a maximum resident census of 65 residents at any time unless an amendment to the special use is approved. Finding number 11 directly mitigates intensity of use concerns, limits traffic, staffing demand, parking demand, deliveries, and public service impacts. Finding number 14, it balances the public concerns while still allowing the applicant to utilize the property. Condition number 4, within 6 months, the applicant shall install additional evergreen screening along the north property line sufficient to achieve year-round visual screening. Finding number 10, it directly addresses the neighborhood character. 11, it mitigates the visual impacts. And number 14, it protects the neighboring properties while permitting use of a vacant building. Number 5, prior to operation, the operator shall file a security and access management plan to the Director of Community Development, providing controlled access, alarmed exit, security cameras, visitor management procedures, and 24-hour staffing. This finding 11 directly addresses public safety concerns and reduces potential impacts on the neighboring properties. Finding number 14, it helps support a finding that approval will not create a net detriment to the public welfare. Finally, condition number 6, that the operator shall maintain written procedures governing all resident discharges. Transportation shall be offered for all departures, and that the operator shall maintain documentation demonstrating compliance with this condition, and shall make such documentation available to the city upon request in connection with a verified complaint or a compliance review. This number 11 mitigates public concerns regarding walkaways, proximity to schools, people entering the neighborhood, entering nearby neighborhoods. And then also number 14 demonstrates safeguards intended to reduce off-site impacts while still permitting the need service to be offered. And that's what I have.
So we're walking a fine line there. A lot of it I agree with, but who are we to tell any business how to run their business in their capacity? We're not going to tell a liquor store how many 12 packs they can sell or how many coolers they can have in their building. So I think we're crossing the line telling a business that's coming into town how to run their business. I think that's a slippery slope in regards to capacity.
I was trying to meet both parties. I'm involved with this. I put a lot of thought into this. And I feel that if Jason and Doug and Nick and those guys find this okay, then, we go this route, but I would still need a second, so.
I am not okay telling them how many patients they can help. I wouldn't tell the nursing home next door how many seats they can have, or the nursing home that my wife works in, how many beds they can have. The state of Kansas is able to tell physician-owned hospitals how many beds they can have, and it handcuffs them to where they can't compete with other ones that are so.
This is the number they threw out. That's how I came up with it. I get what you're saying. So I was just trying to state for the record what Jason and Doug and those guys had said. So that's why I put that in there.
So we're licensed by the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services, and they regulate the number of beds that we're approved for. They've approved us for 80 beds. We talked about 65 beds. We talked about what we anticipate will be a usual census. It may sometimes go above 65. From a business perspective, it would be wonderful to have 80 patients. We would love to be able to provide services that many. It rarely happens that a substance use treatment program is at capacity or is a licensed capacity. So sometimes it'll be 65 was kind of the number that was thrown out as where we think we will probably be. Sometimes we may be below that. Sometimes we may be above that. We'll never be above 80.
Okay.
I would amend my motion then for, I believe it was number 3, to be the resident census of 80
Yes, sir.
residents at any time unless an amendment to the special use is approved.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Did JT have? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, would it behoove us to consult our attorney on the legality of this motion?
Thank you for asking. actually sort of apologize to the planning commission because they thought they were in a difficult position with all the things that were going on. I think it's a tough job until I had this one tonight. And so I feel a little like stump the band, but I'm going to go through these and I'm just going to tell you what I think. Okay. And legal minds can differ, but I'm going to tell you what I think. And if I get them out of order or I get them wrong, you can correct me. I'm taking notes.
And
I
JT,
believe you're
JT,
first.
I do want to apologize to you and maybe why some of this looks like, while I prepared this, not necessarily prepared for his actions, because as we are in a quasi judicial role up here, part of that too is not giving feedback to emails, not partaking in that debate outside of here. The bench is where this happens. So I appreciate everyone asking their questions up here so that we can get that out in the public as well. Sorry, JT, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all right. I'm going to summarize what I wrote down and you can correct me if that wasn't the intent. Number one was to restrict the facility to inpatient residential treatment, not allow outpatient treatment. I don't know if that one is okay, but I think it doesn't matter. The special use doesn't approve outpatient treatment. The special use approves custodial treatment. So the special use wouldn't approve outpatient treatment. So I'm confused whether or not that one should be a condition since the special use doesn't approve it. And what I'm worried about is that if it's allowed without a special use, and I think it's probably not, but I would need more time to research that, quite frankly. But if it's allowed without a special use, this would not be a forum in which you could now restrict that because it would be permitted zoning now. So I'm going to just say as to number one, which would be to eliminate outpatient treatment. The special use doesn't approve outpatient treatment, so I think it's kind of a nullity. That's just my opinion. Number two, that it be restricted to voluntary residents. So this is a very difficult place we get to, and I think when you try to draw a distinction between people with a disability, including recovering addicts, between those who are diagnosed and want treatment and those who don't, I think you probably can't do that. I think number two is probably not okay. I'm just going to tell you that I think it's probably not okay. Doesn't mean you can't do it. We'll find out in the courts if it is or isn't, but I'm going to tell you that I think it's probably not okay. As I understood number three, now it is to restrict the occupancy to 80 residents. Councilman Henry, I think you did a pretty good job of making that non-punitive. You talked about density, you talked about traffic, you talked about legitimate zoning concerns. I think limiting the density and use of a property to protect surrounding properties is probably a reasonable zoning function. And as long as it doesn't discriminate against persons who are disabled or in this case, the guests themselves, it's probably an okay restriction and seems like a reasonable accommodation for this use. So I'm going to step out there and say, I think number three is okay. Number four was to require trees. Am I remembering it right?
Yeah.
Evergreen trees
Yes.
be planted. That, I guess what I'm thinking about here is that the leaves don't fall and then everybody can see into the neighborhood. I'm going to give that an A+ okay. That is an okay condition you can place on a property. Buffers and zones, that is reasonable.
And it's worth noting, there's a bunch of trees back there now.
But I'm just trying to call these as I see them. Number five was to submit a security plan that the Director of Community Development would review. I'm going to make sure that I my view of how I'd understand that is, we wouldn't necessarily know how to get in or get out. We just want to know what the plan is. I will tell you that your community development director told me that he feels a little ill-skilled to evaluate a plan and doesn't really have a specialty in that regard, nor neither do I. But I'll go one step further. To me, that seems to be a restriction that is punitive and based upon the nature of the guests. And here's what I mean by that. Would you require a security and access plan for a rehabilitation facility that treated people who had had a hip replacement? And if the answer to that is no, then I'm concerned about number 5, because I think it discriminates against a particular class of people who are disabled by addiction. So I'm going to tell you number 5 bothers me, and I think it may not be legal. And I'm going to summarize my opinion here at the end. Your number 6, as I recall it, was that when people leave, they'd either be they'd be offered transportation for all departures, is what I remember. Am I getting the gist of it?
Yes, and if I may, before you summarize, 5 and 6 were things that Jason or Doug, Nick addressed. So I didn't feel it was going to be a legality issue since they kind of brought it up. I was just putting it in record for this. So that's why I did that as far as those 2.
I don't know if this is helpful, but I do, based on some faces that I'm seeing, I do want to be very clear when Mr. Klaus is saying this, we do not ask for a security or operations plan for any other business that has gone through zoning ever that I'm aware of. So that when he says, would you do this for the 2 ERs you already have in town? No, we did not. Would you do this for a liquor store? No, we do not. Any of that? The answer is no, we do not.
And that, unfortunately, I think is the answer for number 6 too. We do not, even though they've agreed they'll do it. We don't have a requirement for how people leaving the hospital are transported, or that the transport and or discharge documentation is made available to the city. I do understand there will be state regulations in this regard that have to be complied with. And I'm also concerned that we would do something that interferes with those state regulations, because this is clearly an area in which the state has exercised its authority. And so I got a little concerned we're playing around in that. So in reviewing your conditions, outpatient treatment, we're not approving outpatient treatment, so I don't understand that one. So I'm going to go with a no on that. The voluntary, the distinction between the nature of addiction between people who seek voluntary treatment and who don't, I think is discriminatory, and I'm definitely going to go with a no on that one. The 80 residents, I'm okay with that one. The trees, I'm okay with that one. The security and access plan seems discriminatory since we've never required anybody ever in a zoning case to have that before. And same way with transportation. So on your conditions, and I realize it's just a motion, it hasn't been seconded yet, and we can discuss it more if it is seconded. I guess I'd like to consider not including 1 just because I don't think it matters. I don't think we're approving that. No on number 2, okay on 3, okay on 4, and no, probably not okay on 5 and 6. And I'm sorry if any of that offends you. That's just as good as I can do tonight. Council Member Henry.
So it seems like I've heard several times that you're not going to hand them their suitcase and say, here, take a walk. Is that not correct?
It's correct that we are not going to do that. The city attorney is correct that the state does regulate how we have to go about discharging. As well as it's been mentioned, we will be accredited through Joint Commission, who also has even higher standards. May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
And it just relates to the trees. Because we kind of went through this with our site plan, I just want to make sure that we're completely in compliance. Does the site plan have to change in order for us to be able to plant the trees?
That would be a modification. Oh, I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
I don't know, maybe Julie's answer is better. I think you can add trees. I think you can't subtract any.
That would be a modification to the approved site plan, which is in place currently and they're complying with. So they would have to go to the site plan review committee for the placement of those trees to be approved. You also didn't really give a number of trees, just some trees. So I suppose you can leave it up to site plan to decide how many trees, but
Okay.
We'll get back to you, but I think generally if you're putting in more than the site plan required, I think you'll be fine.
We're very happy to plant trees. I think that would be a nice addition. Do have some questions about how that might work with a fence. If you want us to do both a fence and trees, or how that would work, and if there's enough room back there to do that.
Well, it hasn't been mentioned, but let's discuss the issue of the fence and planning and zoning. I learned something from them at the planning commission meeting, so hopefully I'll get this right. So for this particular zone, a 6-foot fence is the limit because, you know, tall wind breaking fences are not normally desired. To create a higher fence would require seeking a variance. I don't think you can place a condition on the property that would violate your own rules. I think the best you could do as it related to a fence, if you wanted to make that condition, is that it was conditioned upon the owner seeking a variance to build a taller fence. And agreeing to do so if that variance is granted. However, that's going to be decided by the Board of Zoning Appeals, will not be decided by you whether or not the fence can be taller. So the most you could do is, as a condition, I think, is you could have them ask.
May I mention something? And I think, Mayor, you brought this up. There's a slope that goes down from where we are curbside. I don't know, as Nick and I walked that, we had this discussion a couple of days ago. If we can put a 6-foot fence up near that curb, then I think it will take care of that issue. We were curious how far back from the curb we would need to place a fence.
The further you go back, the lower it's going to be.
I didn't know if there were any restrictions on how close a fence can be to.
to my knowledge, we don't restrict how close to a curb a fence ends up being. I don't think that's something that you have to worry about.
Okay. Then we would be more than happy to put the 6-foot fence right along the curbside, which I think would probably address the issues with height.
But it is right against.
But JT, that's not allowed to be part of the motions, correct? That you're saying? The fence or anything like that?
No, I think a condition for a lawful fence, so the motion could include a condition that they seek a variance to build an 8-foot fence, and if a variance is not granted, that they build the 6-foot fence up against the curb. I think we're all in agreement that would be okay, Julie? There's no restriction on where you put the fence. If it were up by the curb, it would be higher visually. Honestly, I don't purport to know whether the property owners would prefer that because it's not their property. So you end up with kind of a fenced corridor. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just sharing my opinion now. I'm not exactly sure that a fenced corridor is a good idea.
I'm kind of slow, sir, but I'm pretty sure that you could attach that to the top of the curb and then you'd be another 8 inches higher. I got to be honest with y'all. I'm perplexed. I'm absolutely perplexed. Andover's inviting community. I don't see the difference between somebody that has an addiction, a disease, is any different than somebody with cancer or anything else. I don't see the difference, and I don't see the negative impact on our community. If anything, it's a positive, and that's just the way I feel. And I always say what I mean. And we're elected to take care of 16,000 people. We've been down this road before. It's not our job to acquiesce to 20 people, 60 people, or 100 people, or 600 people. We went through the same thing with the apartments in Green Valley. Our job is to, as a quasi jury, to do what's best for the city of Andover. And I'm just perplexed. You know, I went around this town after the tornado. People's houses were missing. And to a house, every one of them said nobody died. You know, that's the kind of community Andover is. And here we are, wanting to block the ability to help people live a better life. And so I could not afford to go to this deal. It's a patient pay, right? Right?
Either private pay or
Private pay, I'm
insurance.
sorry.
Or insurance.
Or
Huh?
insurance.
Or insurance.
So I could not afford to go to this thing. So I'm just saying, what are we doing? You know, this is what I was elected for, and I don't mind taking hits. I really don't care. But it's disappointing that we would not accept a facility to make people's lives better. It's just, and there ain't a person in this room that hadn't had an alcoholic in the family. I had one. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've seen them, hon. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it with me. So that's it. So this is not time. So that's where I stand. So council, let's do this again. Do I have a motion?
Okay, to be clear, you do have a motion, as I understand it. So procedurally, we have a motion. It
Yes.
either needs to be withdrawn,
Right.
or it needs to be seconded, or it needs to die for lack of a second. If we want to keep things in reasonable order.
So if we're going to do 80, it needs to be withdrawn.
Say that again?
If we're going to say, you said 60 beds, if we're going to do 80, then you need to withdraw it.
I already amended.
And a handful of things that he said no to, so we have to withdraw the motion and redo it.
Withdraw or kind of just amend it?
Yeah, you can amend it. It hasn't been seconded yet.
Thank you, JT. Thank you, Mayor. If I may, I would like to amend my motion due to legalities to include the conditions of, do I need to read them again, or can I just say 3 and 4 of my?
You want to include the limitation to 80 residents in the planting of evergreen trees, conditions 3 and 4. Is that what you're saying you want to keep in your motion?
Correct. Yes.
So just for clarity, your motion is to adopt the finding and factors of the planning commission and approve the special use, but subject to the additional conditions of limitation to 80 residents and the planting of evergreen trees along the buffer zone.
Yes.
All right. So I have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries.
Let me check, because I was following yeses and nos, and I'm sorry, I know I've called a lot of attention to people. I heard a no from Colin and Tim, is that correct? And I heard yeses from Marla, Jody, and Homer, is that correct?
Yes.
And so we need to know how the mayor votes.
The mayor votes yes.
Then the special use is approved with the 2 overriding conditions.
All right. One last report here. Persons aggrieved by the final decision of the council on this matter have 30 days after today's action which to appeal to the district court.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
can I make a comment, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to be very clear. These last 6 weeks have not been easy. I will only speak for myself when I tell you all, I have read every single email that came in. I have watched not only the council meeting back, but I've also watched planning and zoning multiple times. I have listened to every single person that had wanted to talk to me, even coming into my office and using that as the place to talk to me. I have wrestled with this. This decision has kept me up. It has weighed on me. I have prayed for guidance and wisdom over this. Ultimately, I've been consumed by this more than any other decision that I have made in my time as a city council member. As I sit here, I'm reminded that I was elected to make decisions, and those decisions are based on facts. And I have to look at so many different perspectives. I can't just look at one. I have to look through this the lens of so many other factors. This has not been an easy 6 weeks. And I can assure you, for me, this decision was one of the hardest and probably I'll ever have to make during my city council time. Because I'm not running again. I'm done. Y'all did me in. Done.
All right. We're ready for member items, right? Go ahead, Homer. Start with you.
Thank you. I commend Jody, for saying that. I appreciate that. I think I'd be remiss if I said we didn't all have those same emotions when it came to this special use. So those 6 weeks, the proceedings before have been hard for me as well. But again, we serve this city, so I appreciate all of us up here. I appreciate the input from the citizens for and against. Thank you.
To the residents and stakeholders, that's business owners and so forth, I appreciate every one of you, regardless if you're for or against this particular topic. Like Jody stated, I read, and most of us, I guarantee you, read every one of your emails, watched every minute of the sessions, and nothing was taken flippantly. As stakeholders, I do believe that you all have a voice. I do believe you all have a voice on every topic that your city council decides on, because you elected us to speak for you to the city and make decisions based that way. I am sorry that the city failed in a part that we're going to talk about here in a second, in my opinion, and I'll see if I can do something about that. I encourage you all as citizens, business owners, and so forth, to continue to get involved with the city and pay attention to the agendas for everything from zoning to council meetings. Reach out to your council members and ask questions. You have our emails, we know that. Please use them. We will respond, or should respond. We are here for you, and I mean this. Please, regardless of which side of the fence you all reside on, be courteous to one another. The last thing we need is more conflict in the world, more division, or anything else. I ask the residents that live near the property to please communicate with the property, any concerns you may have, but do so respectfully, please, and allow them to respond accordingly. To the city, and this is for administration to take consideration, we did the bare minimum. Andover itself has never done the bare minimum. We have always been the best. It doesn't matter if it's our street department, our water and sewer, our parks department, our police, our fire, and so forth. We've always done better than the bare minimum. State requires notifications at a minimum of 200-foot radius for the facility. I personally would ask that you consider or look into at least changing that. I think 500 foot would be a great place to start. If you want to consider 750 or 1,000 feet for any zoning concerns, I think that that would be appropriate. When I looked at the map the first time, when I was told that the radius was 200 feet, I was shocked to see how small that is. And I took action. I wanted people to be aware. Lastly, Mayor Price, as I started my career in public service in the early 90s, my first real adult career boss told me in my training class, God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth. Do twice as much listening and half as much talking. That changed things for me from that point on. I sought out to listen to others. I listened to their opinions, their ideas and perspectives, and I learned. By doing that, it made me a better person. I did not have all the answers. It also helped me from making rash decisions and doing or saying things I could never take back. Again, like I mentioned to the clinic, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I made a promise to the residents and businesses of Andover that I would listen to them. I would solicit their opinions, not make decisions based strictly on one person, one entity, or anything that anybody just told me. I am not a city. I am not an institution. I am merely a voice for the people and not the government. Mr. Mayor, at the last council meeting that I watched, you failed to listen and you failed to respect the public. Regardless of your views, people want to be heard. At that last meeting, you admonished the residents of Bicentennial Edition because of your personal experience or bias that you had. You called them out, not once, but twice. It would have been handled much better had you just allowed them to talk and turn over to city administration their complaints and address it one-on-one with them. You said you can't lie like that, yet you do that 2 more times during the actual council meeting. The second time is when you decided to admonish the public for coming and talking. You also stated that
I did not. You stop. You're not going to lie. I did not admonish the public.
I have the quote right here. It says, "We have never let people come in here
Yes, sir. That's
and
correct.
be redundant, one after the other,
That's
after
correct.
the other,
I was not
after the
admonishing them.
other, after the other, after the other,
See, you don't know what
after
you're
the
talking about.
other." This was at, if you would like to know exactly, 9:46 and 5
I know
seconds.
what, I was there, man. I was there. You're
You
out of
also
order
stated to the
'cause you're-
public
You're lying.
as, I'm reading directly from.
What I said, you're taking what I said and misleading the public. That is what I said.
Okay.
And it is a true statement that during the PUD, we never, ever, ever let the public go redundant. And I did it because I thought, and I said it because I thought they deserved to have an ear. So while you're off or doing your thing, that's what I said. That's true. But that's not that was not the intent of the message. It was the true fact that the PUD, we do not ever do it. And you've been through a couple of them. I've been through 50 of them. We do not let, unless they have new information, Mr. Gallagher, we do not let them all come. I let them come because I thought they deserved to have a say.
And if any
So
one of these
unless you
people
say it
have
any other
watched,
way, stop saying it.
if any one of these people have watched any of the council meetings where we have allowed people to talk over and over and over.
No,
about a
we
particular
have not,
topic.
man. You're lying. You're absolutely full of
The
it.
fourth issue, of course, is when you decided to admonish me, sir.
Yes, sir.
When you decided to say I broke the oath that I held my hand up for saying.
Yes,
and
you
would
did.
Protect all 16,000 citizens.
Yes, you did.
You stated I broke my oath numerous times, and you sat there and referred the process that I denied the people the ability to appeal in district court.
You broke your oath.
As such, I believe that you, sir, are out of line. You stated numerous times, he is not courageous. He is not courageous. He is not courageous. Please don't. Hold on. Please don't. Hold on, please.
And I let them do that
And
too, which
stated-
is not acceptable, by the way,
I
during the whole
stopped
meeting.
them as well. You stated that I was not courageous, and you were correct, sir. I was not courageous at all. What I was doing was my civic duty.
No,
It was what I was elected for.
no.
You can sit here as much as you want and tell people over and over again your personal views. When we had the gentleman that was on another zoning issue, you told him that you would put a road through his house in a council meeting.
What? The hell?
Sir, you have got to get yourself under control and stop making the citizens fear coming
Wow.
to the city or the city council. This is the reason why people do not want to bring things to the city council. If they're going to be yelled at by you or any of us up here, it is irresponsible. It is not just, and it is not the American way. That is all I have to say about this topic.
Man. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
Mr. Mayor,
So, yes, sir, go ahead.
are we continuing with member items, or if you want to go first, that's fine.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It saddens me, the outcome. I respect the will of the council and the voting that took place tonight. Ultimately, I was not persuaded by the facts of the cases. I was not persuaded that property values would not experience a detrimental impact. Ultimately, because of a study that is, you can agree or disagree with the outcomes of the 2014 Waller study, but it does in fact conclude that properties within an eighth of a mile do experience a decrease in property value. You can explain it away. You can say it's a different type of patient population, et cetera. But for that reason, and as well the increased intensity of use, I disagreed with the staff finding on the land use. While the cement blocks or bricks on the property do not compact the soil when it is being used for this purpose, I acknowledge the reasonable understanding that a facility of this type does differ from, for instance, its neighbor that is a long-term care skilled nursing facility. So for that reason, I know I'm not obligated to explain, but I feel that the many residents that spoke up deserve to understand some of the background of how decisions were made. I would like to commend the large majority of the comments that were made at the podium by the applicant, by residents, with the exception of the last few minutes here. The council, as we've civilly debated this topic, it is wrought with emotion, it's wrought with fears, it's wrought with facts, it's wrought with what could be. And I would like to encourage us and admonish us to, not admonish, encourage us to remain civil in our discourse as we carry out the important duty of local government. That's all.
I just want to take a moment and explain my personal reasons for sending it back to planning and zoning. I had been a planning and zoning administrator for 7 years, commissioner for 7 years. And we had received so many emails and concerns, and yet nobody participated in planning and zoning. I watched all the meetings. I was a planning and zoning commissioner the first time this came through. So it was really important to me because planning and zoning is the place to talk about land use and to talk about the concerns. And since nobody showed up to that, that was my reason for sending it back. I really want to thank planning and zoning and the staff for walking through that process again and affirming their original decision. I really do appreciate a commitment to the fair and thorough and evidence-based process that we go through. So just wanted to make that comment.
Joe, do you have anything? So first, I'd like to say one thing. The city staff did everything they were supposed to do. They did it absolutely correctly. One council member decided to skip past all procedures. All procedures. He did not let the city procedures play out. That's a fact. He did not let procedures play out. And I'll say this, and I don't have to defend myself, nor will I, because everybody that's listening knows that that was buffoonery at its finest. But I will tell you, the city staff did exactly what they were supposed to do. The process worked exactly the way it was supposed to work. But one council member decided that he didn't need to follow the process. That's fact. That is a fact. So you can think what you want and say what you want, but I will take my 6 years of public service and put it up against anyone's. I'm the most transparent mayor that the city's ever had. I go to the hardware store, I get stopped. I go to Dillon's, I get stopped. And that's the way I planned it. I've been writing letters and putting them in the utility bill for 4 years, every month, engaging with the public, following the process of our city. So I don't care what anybody thinks of me. It doesn't matter. All I know is when I lay my head on my pillow at night, I sleep very well. And I do what the process of the city is. And when I make a mistake, I own it. One council member put the city at risk. Put the city at risk. Put a business owner at risk. Put a business owner at risk. That's a fact. Not only the business owner, all their employees at risk. So if you want to, I live by this code, man. Every morning I pray the Lord's Prayer. I say, Lord, forgive me of my sins as I forgive others. I live by that code. And I'll stick to my guns and I'll stick to what I said the other night and tonight. The facts don't lie. We avoided the process that we hold our hand up and promise to follow. The period. Can I get a motion to get out of here?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.